Hi, this is Kolsch, and this is how I DJ. First time I mixed two records together. I was a teenager. I'd just gotten a record player at home which had no pitch, and I remember at the time I was producing music on my Amiga 500. This is a long time ago. And I was playing the music on the Amiga 500, trying to match the speed to the record that was playing from the record player. But since it didn't have pitch, I'd do it in the computer, I'd sort of put it down and up on BPM to see if I could get away with it. But obviously nothing worked. In front of me, I have a standard DJ setup. I usually go for the V10, which is my favorite mixer. I've been using that for the last couple of years. It sounds great. It has more channels, but now we have this one, the DJM A9, which I'll have to do with. The way I DJ is I'll have a main track playing on one of the CDJs. Then I will have a loop, in this case, a snare roll over here. I will usually have loops and acapellas either to the right or to the left, depending on in which situation I am. If I do back-to-back, it's obviously completely different. But the idea is that I always have two CDJs that are running the main tracks that I'm playing, and then I can add stuff from over here. In this case, I've got a record going over here, which is one of the things I'm working on currently. And there's a break coming up, for instance.
Tell your man to relax though. Face looks like a Picasso. Tell your man to relax though. Face looks like a Picasso.
The idea is that there's always something happening. You're always creating sort of a live situation with whatever it is you're doing. You can add energy, you can subtract energy with the elements that I had over here. I'm constantly online for new music. Lately, I've been getting very much back into buying vinyls. There's a great vinyl-only community, and there's so many good releases that kind of never end up on any of the DSP. It's a great way to discover unreleased records that maybe could be less Shazamable. 90% of all the records I play are either my own or edits I make. I think edits are extremely important when you DJ. The reason being that everything is so readily available, and the only way to differentiate yourself from anybody else is make your own edits or play them in a particular order or add acapellas or whatever you do. It doesn't really matter. In my case, I'm a good producer, so I do edits for pretty much everything. So this is a demonstration of what I would usually do. This is actually a mix I've done a few times out. It's a combination of one of my classic remixes, an acapella and a snare roll, simply just to build up the break a little bit more so it becomes much more interesting. First thing you got to remember, acapellas always in key. There's nothing worse than listening to they don't play acapellas that are out of key. It just kills my ears. Well, let me dive into it.
Problems. Music is the Music is the answer to problems. Music is the answer to problems. Music is the
So that's really it. Building up a break a little bit more, adding a few snare rolls and acapella. That's all you need to do. Usually I will add a little more effect on the acapella, but seeming this is not the mixer I usually go for. This is what we have to make do with. But that's also very DJ-esque, isn't it? Sometimes you'll end up in situations where you don't have the exact equipment that you would be used to, but you got to make the most of it. Timing is basically the all of DJing, isn't it? My point with this was to have played the track for a while, introduce a new element, in this case the a cappella, beef up the element with the drums, and focus on getting that drop. My ideal set time is as long as possible. Obviously, depending on where it is. I have clubs that I like to play 8-hour sets, and this is something I'll purely do for myself because I love doing it. Especially one amazing club in Germany called Gewölbe. I've been playing there for many, many years. It's the most beautiful sound system. The crowd is amazing. People are just up for it. Experimentation and listening to all kinds of different music. So I really do enjoy longer sets. Preferably at clubs though, because longer sets at festivals are hard because you're competing with a lot of other artists and people usually don't have the stamina to stick with you for, let's say, 6-7 hours. Long sets for clubs, I'll play a shorter set at a festival. So a couple of years ago, I swapped from regular headphones to in-ear monitors. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is I wear a fedora, so it would look kind of goofy with the headphones. A second part of it was, from my point of view, a medical thing. I had a slip disc, so I couldn't do this anymore, which I'd done for many years before that. But the most important part is protecting your ears. Obviously, these in-ears have filters in them, so you can use them as regular hearing aid as well. But the point is that when you go to a club and the music is loud and you do this, in my case, I've calculated over 3,000 shows in my lifetime. At one point, something will creep up on you, and that is tinnitus, which is not a nice thing to have in your life. I do have it. Not as bad, thankfully, that I'm very lucky when it comes to that. But in-ears also have other really great benefits. First of all, you don't have to play very loud in them because they sit in your ear and they're very, very tight and sealed. But also, you can mix very, very tightly. A lot of times when I come to a club or a festival, these days with all digital sound systems, there's always latency in the monitoring system because the monitors run through X amount of processors and on the way back. So they will have latency in there, and that is really annoying when you're trying to mix with the monitors. So what I'll do at times is just switch them off or at least play them lower and then just mix in the mixer in the headphones. And that does take a bit away from the situation in the sense that you don't feel as if you're part of the crowd in the same manner as where you're playing on the monitors, but it does make it much easier to get the mixes clean. So that's a really good thing with in-ear monitors for sure. My biggest inspirations from a very young age were people like Laurent Garnier, who's still one of my inspirations, Dave Clark, Miss Jax, Acid Maria. These days, I guess, somebody like Sven Feth. There's so much more to DJing than just track selection. I've caught myself in situations where I've listened to a DJ whose music I've not necessarily even been into, but because of their persona, the way they perform, the integrity, I just stay listening to it anyway. It's the best part of this whole thing, being able to discover new things about yourself and the music. Since CDJs were invented, back in the days, you'd save the loop points on SD cards and play CDs and such. What I always do when I perform is I loop the intro of what I'm mixing in. So let's say I'm playing a record over here.
Tell your man to relax though. Face looks like a Picasso.
And I'm mixing this guy in, and instead of having to wait for the track to reach the point where I'd usually would let it go, I've created a loop just before the break that I want it to be at. So in this case, this is just before, I guess this is at the 32 bar mark, and I mix in, and I unleash the loop there and go break. So in this way, it's easier to control exactly when any break will come in your sets, and it's easier to keep the energy level up instead of having to wait those intro moments. There's nothing wrong with an intro, but I prefer to keep in control of those situations. I think we're living in a time where DJing has become much more of a promotional thing. It's actually very little about the music. It's more about the looks, the performance, about the moments, these cringeworthy TikTok moments that people are trying to create. A lot of DJs are not performing for the crowd anymore. They're performing for the camera. They're trying to create a viral moment which would benefit their career. I think that's really problematic. I think it's extremely important that we keep focus on the crowd and the people are there, because it's their experience. In the end, as a DJ or a performer, you're there to service them to a certain extent. You're there to give them their great moment. And I think that is the most beautiful and spiritual thing that you could do as a human being. I'm worried about the lack of musical integrity, definitely. If you paid the entrance price to go, let's say, either to a club or a festival, and you want to film, you go ahead, man. Do your thing. I'm not the one to tell anybody to do with their lives. If they want to keep that moment, that's completely up to them. I'm not one to judge. I think as long as you behave, you don't bother anybody else, do whatever you want. You've earned the right to film as much as you want. When it comes to organizing everything, I'm very, very focused on organizing myself. I use Rekordbox, which is one of my favorites. I'll have different folders for different sets, but for me, it's mostly about energy levels, but also about production. And what I mean by that is, let's say I'm playing a longer set. I like to imagine the first couple of hours of a DJ set as an embrace, a slow embrace. During the first couple of hours, I'll increasingly play more and more compressed records to create a more intense feeling, more energetic. Not necessarily tempo, just the way the records are produced. I think it's important to think about how intense do they feel? How does the kick come in? Is it a harder kick? Is it a soft kick? What's the bass line doing? Is it funky? Is it more stiff? What are you trying to achieve with all these things? And all these different categories I have in my Rekordbox setup. So I'll have warm up, or pre-warm up, or ultra soft, or beginning. At times I'll even do hours. Even with shorter sets, it's important to be organized, to know briefly or broadly, where do you want to go with this? What is your idea? What story are you telling? There's nothing worse than standing on a main stage of a festival, scrolling through, where was that record? Oh my God, what was it? Let me search for it. It doesn't look particularly sexy, does it? Most important thing as an artist or as a DJ right now is to create your own lane, create your own sound. Goes for producing as well, really. It's important to stick out. Have a persona, a flamboyant persona, or work on what you want to deliver. What are you trying to tell people? It's not about partying at all, actually. It's the opposite. These days, it's an Olympic sport, really, to be an artist traveling in this level, because you cannot get fucked up and get on a plane at 7 in the morning and deliver a great set that evening. It's just not possible. Stay strong. You'll get there.